Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com.
The outstanding Frank Bodani, York Daily Record, joins us. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Good afternoon, Steve. Happy bye week starting off for you. Beautiful weather.
Happy bye week indeed. All right, so through 5 games, in general, what do you think of this football team?
You know, a lot of it is what I expected on defense, especially. I think they're not just really good and overwhelming at times on that side of the ball, but I think they're getting better in some ways, and I think they have a lot of younger guys, so that's something that I think people wanted to see. Young guys like Zane Durant, KJ Winston, I think these guys have a lot more to give, so that's a good thing. Offensively, I'm just a little bit I don't have all the answers, Steve. I'm not sure. I mean, it's not like they've been bad or even not so good. It's just I don't think it's what fans expected to see, or maybe how they want it to look. And I'm not sure that I have some definitive answers for you on that.
Well, is that because of the lack of big plays? I think people expected them to run wild with what was going on. Right now, literally 50% of Penn State scoring drives this season have been longer than 4 minutes. And in the past, it's been about 80+% that have been under 4 minutes.
Right. Well, I think people might at those drives as things you may have to do against the better teams. You know, maybe you have to do those against Michigan and Ohio State. I don't think people are thinking Penn State needs to do those against some of the teams they play. It's almost as if this is how we have to score against Northwestern and, WVU, maybe even more so against Illinois, and we should be able to do better with more explosive plays. And you hit it. The run game is the biggest question to me because of how highly touted those running backs are and how much better the offensive line is. Hey, when you have basically America's maybe best offensive left tackle, people are expecting things from you. And when they see Nick run like he did last year, people are expecting things. So.
Well, what strikes me is I actually had a couple of people come up to you yesterday and said, has he lost some foot speed?
Right.
And, of course, I see practice, so I'm fortunate I can say I do that. I also know what his chip time is in terms of miles per hour, and I can assure you he has not lost any foot speed. I think it's just the way it's – I feel like he's a block away. That block could be from a guard. That block could be from the tight end, something. He needs one more in there, I think.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and I think – and I'm not a coach. I'm not a running back, but I think there's a mental aspect to all of this and all these positions. And when things maybe aren't going as easily or exactly the way they were in the past, do you think sometimes a little much? A little too much? Do you try to alter things instead of just seeing the whole hitting it, accelerating and going and running through the tackles? I mean, I think there's runs, almost one every game looks exactly as his best shape form last year. There's like one of those or two of those every week. It's just none of those have gone beyond 20, and there just hasn't been as many. I think people just expect, hey, the Rose Bowl, right?
Sure.
You're going to see that on a regular basis.
Right.
Rutgers, you're going to see that. And I think it's probably a combination of things. And maybe it's just, like you said, maybe it's just an extra block here with the wide receivers on the edges, or that get that one run going, and then maybe it snowballs.
What have you thought of Drew Allard to this point through 5 games?
Amazingly efficient, and his decision-making to me is kind of off the charts for his age, for his experience. I would not have expected 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, no matter how good you think he was. So that part of his game has gone beyond my expectations. The connection with the wide receivers, I mean, there's a two-way street here, right? So it's not just him. It's how is he working with his tight ends and receivers. And again, there seems to be more growing needed, maybe a little bit of a disconnect, it looks like at times. And maybe that's just work. Maybe that's just practice. Maybe these next 2 to 3 weeks before Ohio State is the best thing that could happen to him and those guys.
You referenced the defense in the beginning. When you watch them play now, and all the guys that they play, a lot of guys that play, what do you think of it, and why has it's been as good as we've seen?
Well, I think coming in, I think we probably thought that they had you probably had at least four like all-American elite talents to go with, to start with. And I think those guys have delivered in ways and times for sure, but I think it's the depth that's I haven't seen it in 30 years at Penn State on that side of the ball. And they can come at you in waves, and it's coming at you at waves with the speed that they have, the athleticism. They have a secondary that's experienced, but also not just fast. But I mean, they're pretty big guys for that position, and they're I think they're gaining more confidence all the time. And like, look at Daquan Hardy. People might have forgot a little bit about him at the beginning of the year, but has he played as well as anybody since he's come back? I mean, and he's not even really one of your main cornerbacks in a sense to start off the year. He's not one of your top 2, but I think he's a perfect example of, wow, you can't it's not just the 11 guys, right? It's the waves they come at you, and to see Zane Durant step up in the middle, and that was a big deal, I think, for Penn State, him and Keziah Zard in the second half.
Yeah, Durant had a huge day for Penn State. And then, you look at the kids on that 4th down fake punt. Zion Tracy comes off the edge, trips him, and then Rojas cleans him up short of the mark. I mean, they're getting that kind of play from young players. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, yeah, and I think you don't always look at, are the numbers always that important? Maybe not, but the numbers that the way they've shut down teams in all ways, I think is just, I think it does speak to what you're saying. I mean, and I don't think we haven't seen the best of Tony Rojas and guys like Zion Tracy yet, right? I expect to see more of them in the second half, and sometimes you wonder if there's enough. I don't think there's enough plays to go around for the guys yet. I think people might be wondering, like, okay, Abdul Carter's an All-American. Well, where's his stats, right? Where's all these big plays? And I kind of think, well, he hasn't played as much as what anybody would expect yet, because he hasn't had to, and they haven't wanted him to. And I think the second half of the season, I think some of this is going to shift and look even more like what people are expecting from some of the big guys.
One of the older players, Adisa Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen from him? Because sometimes certain guys, especially when they get a little older, like they fly under the radar. I always feel like Curtis Jacobs flies under the radar. I feel like Isaac has flown under the radar. What have you thought of him?
I think he's done a heck of a job, coming all the way back from an injury that probably a lot of people don't probably understand maybe how significant that is, that Achilles, and what it takes to come all the way back from something like that. And it's been gradual, but to me, it's his consistency. He's really good at what he does. He's not as flashy maybe and quite as explosive as Chop Robinson or Denai or even like Abdul Carter, but to me, it's his consistent pressure, and he's a difference maker in that it seems to me like he just comes every play he's in there, and he's pushing it, and he's making an impact, and it's that continual consistency. I mean, it's his consistency. To me, that's what is. Curtis Jacobs, I think, has more to give too. I think it's a big first game, And I think he's flashed at moments since, but I think I think we saw the end of his season last year take a big step up. And I think that when they're calling for more minutes from these guys, starting with the Ohio State game, I think Curtis is going to shine.
What would you like to see Penn State clean up between now and when they play again?
I mean, to me, it starts with the pass game. I mean, It just did not look together at times at all against Northwestern, and you're starting to wonder 5 games in why. And, I mean, they're missing a couple receivers. One, this is the first year that are injured. This is also the first year where they really haven't had multiple, to me, experienced guys to count on at that position as in the past. And that's no fault of these guys. But to me, it's cleaning up, getting Drew Aller and those guys on the same page. And they're going to have to make some tough catches, Steve. I mean, they're not doing a bad job. They're not dropping balls necessarily, but I think they can help out Drew more with making some tougher catches. And the tight ends, getting them involved with maybe not even in the offense more, but I think there's more to get from them, especially Theo Johnson and his big play capability. We haven't really seen any explosive plays from those guys. So I think that's getting them open and free is a big thing too.
Frank, always do great work. You know how much I appreciate you and the work you do, and appreciate you away from the work as well. Thanks so much.
Well, yeah, I'd love to talk to you, and I look forward to a couple weeks from now, Steve.
You bet. Thanks, Frank.
Sure thing.